I'd like to invite Mark back from All Things. Take it away. Stage is yours.
So you saw me before. I'm Mark. I'm the co-founder and CEO of All Things. What we stand for is a better life in buildings, commercial as well as residential. So our mission is to digitally transform buildings into more lively and more valuable places. So it's focusing on the tenant, but it's also focusing on the owner of the building, of the asset manager. So how do we do this, and what are the challenges that we're trying to solve, or the problem that we're trying to solve? So I mean, you guys know this. Asset managers, or in the real estate world, is investing hundreds of millions, hundreds of billions into the physical world, but they're hardly investing anything into the digital world. But they have a lot of challenges too. So there's, communication issues. So when you look at how, properties are managed today, you often have to pick up the phone to call your property manager. There's a lot of, media breaks between the different parties involved in the value chain. So this is something that can be solved with technology. You have a great potential with technology to, run more efficient operations. This is also hardly done so far. And then, of course, you could use technology to also, sell things to your tenants. So this is something that is not done very much so far. And there's a lot of initiatives going on where people try to actually use the access they have to the tenants to monetize it. The good thing is that the users, the tenants, they are ready. Real estate is one of the last uncharted territories, if you want, one of the least digitized areas compared to all the other areas of you can think of your life. Driving, cars, booking your vacation, and so on and so forth. But if you go home, everything is kind of like 50 years ago. So they're ready, and you can think of very simple functions to start with, how you could actually make life easier and life better in buildings. It's about communicating with your tenants, talking to your. Sorry, it's about talking to your neighbors. It's about communicating to the property manager in a residential space. It's about ordering stuff that you need to clean your apartment. It's about the documentation of your building, and so on and so forth. So the users, the tenants, they are ready, and now it's about making the other side of the coin ready as well. So what we do is we basically provide these services and we bundle them into one single application, which is then given to the tenant, and the tenant can then use it to run his life at home better. And there's a lot of more functions that you can think of that could be easily integrated. If we would sit together for half an hour and just brainstorm about what you could digitize in of the life in buildings, we would come up with a list of at least 100 different functions. So how do we do this? We basically have created a platform which allows you to create applications for each building. It's like an app store, so you can configure this however you want. You can integrate whoever you want, and you can basically put it together, give it to your tenants, and each tenant then has the ability to, as you can see here, maybe for an office building in this case, look at what's going on in that building, has a help desk, meeting room booking, guest parking. It's about the reception for guests in the commercial side. On the residential side, it's the service center. It's about buying from the local grocery store directly through the platform if it's in the same building, and so on and so forth. Here's another example for an office building. You can have directories. So there's like it's basically unlimited of what you could actually integrate here, and this is what we do. Now, what can asset managers, and this is again our core target group that we're looking at, you can develop new digitally supported utilization concepts, which would allow you to increase your rents. You have probably fewer vacancies because you know why people leave, so you can really change also the setup of the building, and you can communicate much more directly with your tenant as an asset manager. You can integrate partner offers. We see that a lot now in Germany and Switzerland, where we're operating so far, where there's a lot of interest to actually get access to the tenants. And of course, and most importantly, you can really do it on a whole portfolio. So far what you can see is a lot of things are happening building by building. You have like this Appartimentum, which was mentioned earlier. It's a wonderful example of a single building where this has been implemented to the largest extent possible. But it's of course not applicable for somebody with a very large portfolio of assets. He cannot do that for every single one of his buildings. So he needs something that is simple, that is modular, and that is standardized, so that he can roll it out not only in one building, but maybe 100 or 200 buildings. So why do business customers work with us? User engagement, so it's very much focused on the tenant. So we actually make sure that the tenant is using the application. It's able to integrate local commerce, where everybody who's where the asset manager, our customer, is actually getting a cut from all the margins that the local commerce is doing. It's modular, so it's like a micro app store, and it's enterprise ready, and this is also important for our customers. So it's really made for the very large asset managers. So our customers are really the top 100 asset managers globally. You can see here a number of names. I mean, most of them you probably are not familiar to you because we started in Switzerland, but basically we covered Switzerland almost completely. We're now moving into Germany and also other places. We're also looking at the Nordics, of course, and the Netherlands, UK, US. And you can see AXA, Credit Suisse are the two largest asset managers in Europe, which are now embarking on our platform. You can also see on the partner side, we're working with the large ones who have doing something related to, building control services, insurance and so on and so forth, integrated as well. This is how we typically work. So we start with a pilot, and this is what we heard today as well. You have to start small, try out, learn, see how this works, how it solves your problems, and then move into whole portfolios. And this is what we typically do. So it's a 2-year journey, if you want, overall to move from trying it out in 1 or 2 buildings to really moving into a whole portfolio. That's the team. Stefan is the CEO. It's the third startup. He created the company originally as a spin-off from the ETH in Zurich. Myself, background in strategy consulting, private equity. Eric is an American with 18 years of experience in product development. Sebastian is the highest ranked software developer in Germany, number 16 globally on GitHub. I don't know if you're familiar with this. It's kind of the Facebook for developers. Tina, head of customer operations, a lot of experience also in startups and fast-moving consumer goods. And Robert, the former head of Xing in Switzerland, Austria, plus 45, a team of 50 in total. And this is the investors we have right now, so you can see a lot of know-how, a lot of very senior people from the real estate world who believe in what we do and who basically decided to support us on the way. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's funny, said in your CV that you were CEO Hybris before. CEO Hybris. That's a great that's a great title now. A lot of CEOs have Hybris, but this is actually a company we were speaking about. So you're seeing that their companies picking up speed really nicely, changing the industry bit by bit, and we're going to see another company intent on doing the same thing. And I'd love to welcome Magnus from Mobility 46. Magnus, the stage is yours.
Thank you. Here's the click thing. Magnus Löfgren is my name, and I'm with Mobility 46. That's a very new company name. It's been on the market for about a month. But the products we supply have been doing good work for a couple of years. Let me take you on a quick tour to the basement, the lower floors of your property, the forgotten and somehow neglected parking and garage assets. Where do I point? There. Some of the trends, you know all this, and it's universal. It's in Stockholm, it's in Sweden, and it's in most countries. The number of cars keeps growing. The number of parking spaces doesn't grow as quickly, so they become more and more attractive. More and more vehicles are becoming electric, so they need charging. And as a driver of one, I prefer to charge at night when I'm parked at home. And if I go to work with my car, I prefer to have it charged during the parking hours when I work, so I can go on a charged vehicle when I go home. The number of bicycles and bicycle passages in the cities is growing too. And now the sales of electrical bicycle is growing very quickly. And there's new vehicles coming in. Scooters, electrical scooters, one-wheel things, a lot of cool mobility tools. Some of them are costly, and a big trend is that the young urban citizens, they are not so obsessed with owning a car as I was when I was young. That was the proof of mobility, to have your own car, being able to go where you want. Mobility is still as important, but not necessarily owning a car. So shared services is really on the entry. So parking assets, they are underutilized today. This is where the digitalization of the prop industry has not happened yet. So we have a lot of, not really analog, sometimes they are, but Excel sheets that are in different places, uncoordinated processes and management, which means a lot of heavy administration. You have the contracts for parking, you have a tenants database or list, you have a queue list somewhere, and then you have a system where you're supposed to invoice your tenants. And it's simply not very often coordinated. A lot of property owners, they simply want to get rid of the problem. So they block rent the whole parking and garage to an operator, and please handle this for me, I don't want to bother with it, and then hopefully they get some money in return. With very little transparency, very low asset utilization. A lot of the revenue from these operators, or the net revenue, comes from parking fines. So if you're the landlord and you rent space to a parking operator and then you rent space to your tenants and the parking operator fines your tenants, it sort of creates some bad will, which you are not interested in. It's not money coming your way. And although it looks like this is a modern business, there's fancy gates, there's a lot of hardware in the garages that make it look really modern, but the processes behind are very sort of old-fashioned. Hooking into previous speakers, so the quick developments, we don't know how is it going to look in a few years. Well, today it's a garage, it's used for parking, but your tenants, they will request, as I mentioned, charging. So that's now. You need to address those needs. Sharing. There's going to be a need for carpools and shared services, and the garage is a perfect sort of space for that. It's just waiting to be explored. All these new vehicles, and we're looking at other types of services. We're just scratching the surface here, but smart storage boxes where you can drop off goods in the morning like your dirty laundry, and when you go home from work, you pick up the clean laundry and your food, your groceries that you bought from e-shopping, because the way it works today with the supermarkets doing this when they should be selling food, it's not working anymore. They've reached their capacity. So Mobility 46, that's a company. Park 46, that's our technical platform, a cloud-based business support system for managing and digitalizing all the parking and garage related processes into one user-friendly administrator interface. We've also created some marketplaces. I think the most familiar one is garagekoll.se, which has 17,000 people actively looking for a parking contract in Stockholm. So we've been working on the demand and supply side and linking those together. Unfortunately, it wasn't enough. We had to approach it with a business system to sort of make it happen. The system in turn generates a lot of valuable data where you as a property owner or facility management supplier can see the level of utilization, the level of vacancies to cut the lead times and get the most out of these assets. A new user experience. We're not talking physical, we don't like physical keys, either if it's an RFID tag in your windshield or a physical key to open a garage. Everyone has a mobile phone, so of course we want to use that, not only for opening the garage door, but also to communicate with the property owner or the facility manager. The benefits, and let me tell you this is low-hanging fruit. It's in operation today. You can do this with minimal investment, minimal time to plan, and minimal risk. So reducing parking administration just through digitalizing the processes, basically importing the data that's there from different sources into one hub. Increasing parking revenue. Yeah, when you start looking at the assets you have and how can you utilize them better, we're talking forms of usage. Today, a lot of garages, they have one type of contract. You rent it by the month. When you start looking at the guests you have in the daytime, the people working there, then you can split it up and have night and weekend contracts as well. And then you can add hourly parking on top of that, plus the value-add services, the charging, the carpools, and all these other things. So there's lots of more revenue and customer offerings to be had from here. Integrated payment solution, meaning that your tenants, they are charged, they are billed for the parking by the contract. and by the mobility services that they have used, the charging based on consumption, all in one tool. Case management, customer support via your mobile phone, direct contact with the landlord, digital key I mentioned, the data we generate, and GDPR compliance. I mean, having these separate Excel sheets is not going to help when you're responsible for compliance with GDPR. Moving it into one system is like a great insurance to have control of your data. So it's a business support platform, and there are marketplaces for parking, for garage, for charging, for car pools, for bicycle pools, and then we're looking at some external companies, Instabox, who have these smart storage boxes for goods pickup and delivery, and other car-related services. And I mean, we're only starting. There is a lot of new offerings to be included in here, where you have the same very user-friendly platform and the automated billing. And just a short glimpse of today's garages. A lot of it, very short, yeah. This is how it looks today, one type of contract. Let's look at these assets, how we can make them more attractive. Chargers, different type of chargers, easily introduced. Pool spots that are used day and night in a pool. Monthly contracts, only a small portion, and then you put some hourly and guest parking on top of that. So that's just generating more money from the same assets, okay?
Thank you very much. Time is up. Thank you very much. And this is just a brilliant example, I think. I think it's a brilliant example of somebody coming in, looking with new eyes at something that is just there and ripe for being developed. So very interesting concept. I just do a little test with you. I started this 12 years ago, and I do it with every audience. You wake up tomorrow morning, this is alternative one, and you're super surprised because you don't have any pinky. It's gone. Nice scar, no pain. Your pinky is gone. That's alternative one. Alternative two is that you can never again use a mobile phone. Raise your pinky if you want a pinky. So there's not even a single pinky in the room. When I started this, everybody, I heard someone on front row scorning on top of that. It's like, oh, what an idiot, you know. Of course I want my pinky, because then the phone could only text. So this we have technology that is even more important than body parts. I'm not going to try with other body parts to see where you have your limit, but it's quite exciting. Entrepreneurs are creating fantastic things, and we're going to hear another fantastic innovator. So Rickard from Nordic, take it away. The stage is yours.
Fact: the biggest cost of running a real estate company is the cost of finance. The cost of borrowing money so you can invest, buy, and build buildings. Fact number two is that the lenders are making a lot of money doing it. Problem: the lenders, the banks, have all the power. They have all the information, and they have all the purchasing power. Opportunity: what if a technology company could shift that power to the buyer, to the real estate companies? Nordic. My name is Rickard Hjelm. I'm the managing director and the founder of this company. In 5 minutes, I'll take you through how we, as a fintech company within PropTech, or a PropTech company within fintech, is doing to help you guys to actually shift that power and become a better buyer in the debt market. We've heard about data and the power of data, and that's what Nordic is all about. We set out on a journey 6 years ago to actually collate all the data that's out there. All the real estate companies, they borrow money from the banks, but there's no transparency whatsoever. All the information is with the bank. What if you could take all that data, aggregate it, put it online, and give it to you guys, the real estate companies, so that you could negotiate and understand what's going on in the market? Now, it wasn't that simple. We actually had to build a whole software solution that took 4 years to develop in order to build trust and functionality so we could actually collate all this data. But that's exactly what we've done. Today we have more data in our treasury, acronym for loan management in our treasury solution than the banks have. And we give that data back to the real estate companies. So by having a user-friendly treasury solution, most of the listed and unlisted real estate companies in Sweden use our treasury. And it's all cloud-based, obviously. And that brings us to what we can do. So over here, number one, we have the treasury management. So all of the reporting around your costs, around your interest rates, around your amortizations, your fees and everything, all that is done in Nordcap. Standardized, easy to use, basically replacing Excel. But what that's done is number two, the insight part of this, the data. So we have 2,000 billion Swedish krona in the solution. Imagine what you can do with that data if you aggregate it, anonymize it, and send it back to the market. So for instance, when Fidelity wants to find out about the Swedish real estate market, I can sell them data so they understand what's going on. I can sell that data back to my users. I can sell it to banks. I can sell it via infrastructure such as Bloomberg, because the quality of my data is unbeatable since it's in your treasury. It's the actual information that you use when you analyze your business, when you report to the market. And this is where we are today. We have number one, we sell that as a license, we make money off it. We sell insight to our clients, not outside the clients yet. And what we're now launching is my chance to be that mouse when the mouse is doing that. Is actually the connecting of the liquidity, where we take the buyers of debt, the real estate companies, and we connect them to banks, to pension companies, to insurance companies, and they can actually transact in our solution. So that you have all your data in our solution, you can see what's going on in our solution, you can actually transact in our solution. And that's what's going to create a unbeatable platform where you know you get the right price at the right time. And even better is that the real estate company or the real estate world works exactly the same way in all the different countries of this planet. And that's my unicorn chance. That's Nordcap. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll take this. I love the passion you see when you see an entrepreneur, and I'll let you in on a secret that changed my life. I thought that passion was something you woke up and had in the morning. Then I realized it's a verb. It's something you do passionately, and then you become passionate because you care about what you do passionately. And if you don't believe me, go home to your loved one, your girlfriend or boyfriend, and you start doing passion for a week, and you see that you'll have a lot more passionate relationship than you have if you don't do passion. And the same is true for building things and changing things. And intrapreneurs and entrepreneurs, in my book, they're the same. They're people with that passion. I don't know if you know Caterpillar. You know what Caterpillar? Building machines, right? And shoes. Could you imagine being in the board meeting and it's like, yes, the Polish building division is going well. Yes, Finnish 1, 2. And then somebody, can I speak, please? Yeah, what is it? Can we do shoes? Okay, yeah, we'll do shoes. Next point. So people that ask why and why not and start challenging things in a passionate way. So we're going to have the last disruptive innovator coming up on stage before lunch. And it is none other than Carl from Bumblebee Labs. Take it away.
This is good. My name is Carl Samuelsson. I'm the CEO of Bumblebee Labs. It's fine. It's a difficult one. What we do is that we measure visitor flows, and we identify and measure visitor flows via mobile technology, Wi-Fi, mobile phones. As you all know, the shopping patterns and the patterns of visiting city centers have changed quite greatly in the last few years due to the introduction of e-commerce, basically, and the continuous use of that. So basically what we see is that you don't necessarily go to shop. You go there to have a look at what you're going to shop, and you go to city center to do other things than shop. And what we can help doing here is to create sort of data around this. We measure very accurately how many people that are visiting, how long they stay within the measuring area. We can also look at correlations between where they come in and where they go out, look at the big patterns there. One very good thing about, and there's been quite a lot of talk about GDPR and how this is going to affect a lot of businesses. The good thing is that our method is already tested by the Swedish Data Inspection Authority, and they took the GDPR legislation into consideration when it did this. So basically, we have an approval from them for our method. We have two different methods. We either put out what we call mobile service, which is battery-driven measuring points that we put out, and we might have seen them in Stockholm the last few days, because I'm going to talk a bit about it later on. But we're doing a very big mobile survey with Chalmers, the Technical University of Gothenburg, where they are looking at basically how the movement patterns differs in areas with different demographics. So over the next few weeks, I'm going to talk more in detail about it, but over the next few weeks, we're measuring, I think 40 areas in Stockholm, Amsterdam, and London. And basically, this is going to result in a number of reports and ultimately a doctoral thesis. And of course, this is a great sort of approval of our methods. We also do permanent installations, which means that we are permanently putting up, which is essentially Wi-Fi routers that are sort of, what we do is that we sort of sniff for when mobile phones ping for a Wi-Fi connection. So they're about 7 to 15 times per minute, the mobile phone with the Wi-Fi switched on is looking for a Wi-Fi connection. We can anonymously sort of gather this information. And of course, we're doing the 4 biggest shopping streets in Stockholm, and the data sort of points, the number of points that we are collecting is up to, several 100 million, up to 1 billion per week. And then of course we have algorithms and software that sort of can mash this data into something usable. And of course basically what we work with cities, and in that is included property companies as well, because the traditional way of deciding the rent for a shop is to see how big turnover they're having. With the introduction of e-commerce, that is not necessarily applicable anymore, and then you might want to know how many people that are passing either by or that are actually walking into that shop, and that might be a new way to sort of measure how big the rent should be. We're also looking sort of indoor. We're looking at malls or similar areas, train stations, for example, and we also can go even further into stores where we can look at the actual movement patterns and look at what people are actually doing in shops. We also work with arenas and amusement parks. I want to walk you through a couple of cases here that we're working with. Västerås was our first customer back in 2014, and Vasagatan is considered the prime location in Västerås, and everyone assumed that this was sort of the A location. That's where the property should be worth the most, and the rent should be the highest. What we actually found out when we measured that whole area was that the biggest flows came from the train station in Västerås up towards the university in Västerås. And of course, this had an impact on the actual sort of property price there as well. But what was quite interesting was that the big shopping centers here in Västerås, they actually they took this data into sort of consideration, and they open up sort of more doors on the sort of backside. They always thought that, the customers are coming here and this is the most important part, but they actually started opening up here and fixing in order. So it actually had an actual impact on how they treated the business. And what is quite interesting is that we have sort of moved on with both these shopping centers and have actually installed permanent installations inside the shopping centers as well to see how sort of what the customers are doing when they actually enter. I'm going to quickly walk you through. We talked a bit about the Chalmers mobile survey that they're doing, and of course this a huge honor for us to work with them, to be honest, and it's also taking up quite a lot of capacity in the company. We normally work with 10 to 12 nodes when we're doing these mobile surveys. Now they're using 60 nodes, and it's going to be interesting to see, because what they're looking at is something called the spatial morphology group, more difficult one, at Chalmers, and they are with this the data that they're getting here. What they aim to do is to look at how are you going to develop the modern city? How does it differ between different areas of the city? How can you see a difference between Stockholm and London? Can you see a difference, between a welfare in Amsterdam and a suburb in Stockholm, etc. So this is taking up a lot of our time right now, and I'm getting a few phone calls a day from people who are a bit worried about these boxes that we put out, but they are totally safe. Just quickly, we're working quite a lot with Jan, who's now own most of the railway stations in Sweden, and they're doing basically railway stations nowadays are both, of course, places to sort of catch a train, but they're also sort of commercial spaces. So they treat them more as shopping centers. And what they want to find out in Stockholm was to see how the new train line, City Banan, affected the movement patterns within the central station. They also wanted to see how many people that were passing by the commercial areas in the central station. So that's quite interesting. We're hoping to sort of, and it's a good example of how you can use it. They're using something we call an OD matrix, where we can actually see when people are coming up from the subway, where do they leave? Where do they leave the building? Where are they going to? And of course, this could help them to increase the security, etc., etc. Quick one. So I'm just this is actually I had a few different customers, so I'm basically done there.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Uh,
Then,